Oh my God, it's the man.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hey, Paul.
You ready?
Yeah. How's this, man?
Much better.
Listen, don't get me started.
Hi, Carlos. Hey, Jimmy. It's Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Nice to see you.
Man, good to see you. It's been too long.
It has been too long. I have nothing but questions for you.
Oh, my.
So
Okay.
The world doesn't know this about you and me, but you love to fish, and I love to fish.
Yeah.
And the other day, I landed a 5-pound bass. Now, in my world, that's pretty good.
Oh, that's great, man. Hell,
But
that's great.
in your world, it's a puny little
No.
bass. What's
Come
the
on.
biggest? Tell everybody the truth. Own it. What's the biggest one you landed during COVID?
That's not true. A 5-pounder is a good fish anywhere in my book.
Okay,
You know?
okay, but time out. It's
Yeah.
small compared to the pictures you sent me.
Well, I mean, in the South, it's different than it is up north. There's a longer growing season, and there's some big fish down here. Bass fishing.
So what's the biggest one you caught this COVID season?
So far 10 pounds. But there's bigger ones out there, and I keep trying.
I love fishing. I love it. So
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
When you play with Panic,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you go on these 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-minute musical journeys where you'll start a solo and just build it over a very, very long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
When you play with your solo band, they're more like there's some of that going on, but it's more like it's part of a tune that you wrote.
Uh-huh.
Is it the same way?
Well, sometimes it's the same kind of approach. The basic idea is to just improvise, and if you know how when you're in a bigger band and there are more members in the band, it's more like a train, it's not a sports car. You know what I mean? So turns are going to be a little bit slower. The more people you tend to have in the band than they would be, say, if you were in a 5-piece band or a 4-piece band where things can turn on a dime. And and musically, in Panic, a lot of times we just play over one chord, and that frees up the improvisers to be completely and utterly free. If you're just playing over one chord, it's a lot different than if you have a set of changes. And with the other band that you saw,
Yeah.
there's changes involved in most of the
That's what I'm
flow.
talking about. One
Yeah,
is more free than the other, and I didn't really understand it. You just explained it.
yeah. And because you're still improvising, but it's a different set of parameters, But we do both in the other band. Sometimes we'll hit one chord and just go for a long period of time. Like the Miles Davis period where he was doing stuff like the On the Corner record, where you just hit one chord, or Bitches Brew, or, any of these kind of experimental things. It can go both ways. It could go, the heavier the chord changes are, the more you have to kind of navigate them when you're soloing over them.
So I'm going to show you something. His.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, that. Look what I have.
Oh, you got Ernie Ball vine pedal, huh?
No, that you gave me with the new pot in it.
Nice.
Jimmy herring pedal. I keep it right next to me when I'm recording.
Do you like it?
Oh yeah, you kidding? As smooth as silk.
That's
You must
great.
work really hard on it for a long time.
That's
Not
wonderful.
6 of them in front of you all the time, right?
I'm definitely, I'm stuck on a vine pedal. I need one, I'm just so used to having it. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you the next question.
Uh-huh.
You play louder than the average bear.
Well,
And you've been doing it a long time.
yeah,
100-watt amps are not something new to you.
right.
First question, are you louder than you used to be? Or are you quieter than you used to be? And second question, which I know the answer to because you've told me, why do you play at that volume? And the third question is, do you still love it?
Yes. Okay. Well, it's to me, it's all relative. You know, I mean, if you're in a 200 seat club with a 100-watt Marshall, that's ridiculous and that's too loud and it's not musical and it doesn't make any sense. But if you're playing outdoors, you know, and you know, you're outdoors and you're not playing with a singer who is afraid of your volume. I'm lucky to work with singers that none of them have actually like really, you know, said that I'm a problem with my volume. If there's room for the sound to exist, I mean, it's not just about the volume. It's just that these old amps that I like to use, you know, Fender, mid-60s Fender Twins or Bassmans or Super Reverbs or, you know, or Marshalls or Germino amps or PRS amps, they all sound better when you can crank them to me, you know, and then you use your either volume pedal or your, you know, your knob on your guitar. It's an old school technique, you know, where you push the amp past its limits and then you control it with the guitar, or in my case, sometimes it's a volume pedal like you just showed us. But I think the reason that I feel like I have to play that loud is because of the headroom you get when you back off on the volume. You know, channel switching amps are really great, but to me, they seem like they're a night and day difference. And like channel 2 may not even sound like the same amp as channel 1, even though they're both really good sounds. I like to live in that spot in between channel 1 and channel 2, which is basically a cranked Fender or Marshall or, you know, a Fuchs or a PRS amp, you know, just cranked. And then, you know, you use your guitar to bring out more of what you need or don't need. And yeah, that's the whole thing to me. That's the way I try to do it.
Well, a lot of people don't know that you've got your volume control at about 7.5, but when you're above the 12th fret on the high E string, that's when you bring it up because you need a little bit more gain. The wire is just not as big as the other wire.
That's true. The distance between, you know, the length of the string is so much shorter when it's, you know, when you're up high on the neck, and it vibrates less than it does if you're playing in the 3rd fret. And it's not as loud. And sound guys will have to, you know, the higher you go on the neck, they have to turn you up to keep you at the same volume. And if you do build that into your own playing style, it helps a little bit. You know.
You've played with a lot of bands. You played with Panic in your own band, and the Allman Brothers, and the Dead, and John, and God knows all these things, right?
Wow.
What's the one that sticks out, Jimmy? What's the one moment you would go, OMG?
There have been so many that I can't even
name one.
Well, I mean, okay, it's hard. You're making me name one, but
I know what? You know, I got interviewed about an hour ago. I said, I'm going to give you 4. I mean, it's okay to change it. Change the question.
Of course, it's hard to name one because all are significant and none are really any more important than the other. But, you know, man, I grew up, you know, when I heard Intermounting Flame, I mean, that changed my whole life, and it did it immediately, that moment, you know, and it kind of gave me something to shoot for as a musician, because I knew I was never going to be a rock star. I don't want to be a rock star. Never did. I want to try to be I'm a player. I want to be a player. And so when I heard that, I mean, of course, I love Led Zeppelin. I love the Beatles, man. The Beatles, there's still nothing better than the Beatles, even now, you know. But as a player, when I heard John McLaughlin, when I heard Mahavishnu, and the path that took me on, I mean, you know, I mean, to play with him was like, I mean, you know, it's just surreal. It just seems like I dreamed it. Seems like it never happened.
It happened. I was there.
Oh, God. What a trip, man. What a trip.
You played beautifully with him.
Oh, God, thank you, man. Thank you.
You played beautifully with him. So,
thank you.
I got some moments that I remember standing on the side of the stage with you that I just adore. But that thing that happened with the Colonel, that was unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
He was unbelievable, the teacher of all you guys.
Oh, my God, yeah. I mean, he's our muse and has been forever. and you bringing us to, you know, to do your 30th anniversaries. That's what it was, right?
John was there, right?
My God, that, and then you brought in John McLaughlin to play with us, who, I mean, to see the two of them on the same stage, they're complete opposites. You know, one is super technical, but visceral too, you know, like just, but they share so many, they have that in common with one another. They're both so intense, although one is deep into music and techniques, the other is not. The other is more of a, you know, he just helps musicians find their own voice. That's just one way to put it. There's so many. Bruce has layers, you know. He's been sort of our, you know, he kept us from just being just another group of wannabe fusion musicians, you know.
Yeah.
He just showed us how to project or something, and it's really, man, I've always been so grateful for my tenure with him.
Well, one of John's favorite stories to tell me is when Miles Davis threw him off his center and threw his sheet music away and made him just play.
Holy crap.
And Bruce used to do the same thing. His job was to throw you guys off center so you would just play. And in a way, it was the same. Different in terms of the kind of music and the technical thing. Bruce just wanted pure emotion and crowd impact. John.
That's right.
John was coming from a different place, but what Miles Davis wanted was pure emotional impact and an emotional thing. He wanted the same thing from the way John tells the story. And the story is very similar, actually. You know, Bruce tried to play that mind game on me. I wouldn't do it. But God, I loved him. I loved him. He was great.
He was so wonderful. I mean, I'm so blessed to have had him in my life. I mean, we joke around here, and you know, the people in the circle with Bruce, we joke all the time and say, you know, there's two kinds of musicians: those that have worked with Bruce and those that haven't.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sort of, we sort of view him as our, you know, Southern version of Miles Davis, and he, I mean, man, he turned us on to so much great music that I never heard. He turned me on to Ornette, a lot of avant-garde music, Cecil Taylor, Sonny Chirac, you know, and plus he was really into the deep blues. So it was through him that I came to really listen a lot to Howlin' Wolf and Son House, and you know.
I thought the world of him. So let me go on. I don't think I've ever asked you this, Jimmy, but you got a lot of people going to be watching this that look up to you, who admire your playing, who want to know whatever tidbits of knowledge and advice you have. So for these young players that are coming up, do you have any advice for them about how to approach the instrument, how to approach their music, how to approach the band, how to approach any of that? What would you say to all these young musicians? And there's a lot of deeply, deeply talented people coming up.
Oh God, absolutely. It's hard for me to see myself as, you know, in a place to, you know, advise anyone on anything. But I mean, I would say that, like, with everything that's available to them today, see, it's just a different era now than it was when I was coming up. And in my day, you know, we didn't have the internet, and you know, you had to learn it from the records. You could take lessons if you wanted to, but the best lesson of all, I still feel like this is true, is listen to what you love and try to learn it, you know? And I mean, if you start there, there's no end to what you can do because you're so interested in the music you love, right? I mean, when you heard Santana or Jimi Hendrix when you were, you know, in your late teens, I mean, how did you learn that, right? You tore up the record with the needle, right? That's the most important thing, right? Your ear in your hands.
I was stunned that he could make two notes sound so much different than somebody else would make two notes sound.
Oh yeah. You know, I mean, I just feel like it's easy to lose sight of that basic fundamental thing if you learn everything from someone else, you know? Yeah. Like, I mean, sure, you're learning something from someone else when you pick it off records too, but they're not showing it to you. You have to learn it, you know? It has to be your ear, and that's how you develop your ear, you know? It's, for me, it started with, I mean, you know, hearing Allman Brothers in the house before, while my older brothers were playing it, and those melodies would be in your head, you know, but that was their music in my mind, you know. And by the time I started trying to pick out anything off of a record, I think it started with Aerosmith or something like that. That was my generation's music, you know. I was probably 13 at the time, 14, and, you know, trying to learn those riffs. And it was a great place to start because it helped your ear be able to tell the difference between an open string on a riff or maybe a fretted note. The same note, but it sounds different as an open string, right? You know, and you learn those kind of things when you pick out stuff off records. And then later, of course, I got really into Allman Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, and trying to just learn their riffs. I mean, you know, you found out, oh wait, Hendrix tunes down a half step because you can hear that low E, but it's not really an E, it's an E flat. You know, these kind of things. A lot of rock bands of the era, maybe kids don't really know that, but you know, bands like Aerosmith and you know, I guess Hendrix and many bands, you know, tuned down a half step. Not sure exactly why, maybe because it made the guitar resonate a different way, especially with a Stratocaster, you know. Don't you think?
A Machine Gun was tuned all the way down to D.
Oh, it was? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I always thought that it sometimes had to do with the singer not being able to hit the notes. Sometimes it had to do with the guitar sounding cool. It depended. Yeah. It all depended. Let me ask you a last question, and then I hope you have a question for me, Jimmy.
Oh, I have. Yeah, I could ask you questions all day.
so I'll make mine quick. You take people on these musical journeys. Now, I know I've talked to Derek about his musical journeys. He's headed for the money note. But you're not headed for the money note. You're headed for this energetic building and then peaking and then letting back down.
It goes back to my tenure with Bruce Hampton. And his whole thing was, you need to get out of your own way. You are your own worst enemy. That's what he used to tell me all the time. Like, I mean, he'd be like, I heard you play that shit last night. You're playing it again tonight. You know, well, of course we have a vocabulary as musicians, just like we do as people. Like, you and I are talking, we use the same words we would use to talk to another person. So it's not about repeating yourself so much as it is about being comfortable talking. Like, I feel so comfortable talking to you, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm just talking to you. And that's hopefully what I would like to be able to do as a musician. And when you're improvising, if you can get out of your own way, and it's easier said than done. I don't know how to do it. I just know that if I remember what just happened, I didn't do it. You know, like the only time I know when something might have been, real is when I don't do it. And the way that seems to happen is, sure, you practice a lot, you prepare yourself, and you play so much, and you work on many different things. But then when you're improvising, you just don't think about that stuff, and stuff starts happening, you know. And that's what. So I mean, what you're asking me, I don't really know how to answer it.
A good answer. I can tell you, Bugs Henderson used to push on me really hard. Quit thinking. Have your thinking. Quit thinking and play. And he would be on my ass. I'd be in the studio with Mia, the singer in our band, who you've met.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I would play what I thought was the best solo I ever handed in. And she'd go, that sucked. And I would go, what? I said, that's the best solo I ever handed in. She goes, that stunk. No. I want some of that real stuff. And she would be riding me and riding me and riding me. And it was like, I don't remember a note I played after that. It's the same John McLaughlin, Bruce Hampton story, right?
Right, right. And see, some people react well to being pushed that way.
Yeah, me too.
And,
Obviously,
and
I played better. I admitted when I was done, I played it better.
I mean, I got to admit, I mean, I went through a period of being completely broken by it, that type of pushing, which I got from Bruce Hampton on a nightly basis. But, everybody in the band went through it at one time or another. It was my turn, to get that kind of treatment. When you first joined his band, you're his new best friend. He makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. And then after the honeymoon's over, you get yours. You know what I mean? And I was with them for long enough, and we did a lot of stressful touring, where there was 5 people sleeping in a hotel room, some on the floor, some on the box spring, or sleeping in a van. So it was hard anyway, but man, I'm telling you, like, that kind of thing, it really broke me at first, but if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. Don't you think?
Yeah, so I started buying blackface super reverbs for Derek Trucks a long time ago.
Yeah.
He says, buy one and send it to a guy named Colonel Bruce Hampton in Atlanta. I said, who's that? He goes, send him it for Christmas. I mean, Derek Trucks had the same experience. Obviously, he's not going to send a blackface super reverb to just anybody.
Right. Now, he was his too,
So ask away. To ask a question that's edgy that you always wanted to know. Not that you ever do anything edgy. You're very sweet all the time, but that's a different.
Well, thank you. Well, here's one of the things that inspires me about you, is that, at this point in your life, I mean, you've made so many innovations. I can't even stress enough how unthinkable it would be to, in 1984 or 85, to start building guitars in your own workshop, and to somehow get in there with, you're competing with Gibson and Fender. I mean, it's just unbelievable what you've been able to achieve, and you haven't compromised through the whole thing, and you've continued to innovate. And my question is, okay, when did you know that you were going to commit to this, whether it succeeded or not, and that you were in it for the long haul because it's what you love? And it didn't, when did you know that success or no success, this is the path I'm taking?
You asked them the question. I've never been asked, and I've never answered it, but I'll tell you the truth.
Okay.
I had a long night, really long night. And I started asking the question, who am I, and why was I put on this planet, and what am I supposed to do? And I made a deal that I would give it everything I possibly had, because it would be better to try and fail than say at my deathbed, I could have tried.
Right.
And I made a deal, and I said, okay, I'll crank it up. And I started working 7 days a week. We got up at 11, worked till 8:30, put new strings on the guitar, went and played till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
The next morning at 11:30, and we did it 7 days a week. And taking Sundays off finally was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I had made a deal with the force, whatever you want to call it. I made a deal that if I was going to be given these gifts, that I was going to have to either give it everything I had to make them come true. At least I would have had tried. That I could do. That I could do, Jimmy. So could you.
Oh,
David, everything you have. You're one of the only people I ever met that practices after the gig.
well, I mean, I don't always do that.
I've caught you.
I mean,
Johnson's doing it too.
when you're on the road, it's easy to do that because, you're there to play. But when you're not on the road and, I mean, this COVID period there was a period where I didn't pick up the guitar for the longest time. in my entire life. I mean, my entire life as a musician. And I just, well, honestly, I think I have tendonitis in my left arm.
Yeah.
And so they had been telling me for a while, you need to rest this. And I'm like, I can't.
Well, you did.
I did this time. Yeah, I did this time. But man, I miss it so much. I mean, there's just something, in your line of work, you're also a musician, obviously, but obsession. I mean, you are obsessed, Paul. I mean, many people in your position.
Call a gear slut obsessed. I'm a gear slut.
No, you're way more than a gear slut, man. That's a different. You're making the gear.
Yeah, well,
you're designing the gear, and you wake up every day and you're trying to figure out a better, way to make a wheel. It's like, man, that is so inspiring, because many people in your position, man, they just sell their company and go live in paradise somewhere. But man,
will you buy my company and let me live in paradise? I'll give it. It's done.
Are you kidding?
No. I'm kidding.
I want you to stay where you are, because I can, man.
I begged you for this gig to make you guitars. I'm not going anywhere. I begged you. I got to tell you, I'm deeply appreciative of you letting me be part of your guitar world, and I've learned so much from you. And I'm the person screaming on the side of the stage the loudest after a good solo. You know that.
Well, man, I'm grateful to you beyond words. I mean, I just can't say enough about how much I appreciate everything you and your company has done for me. My God, we're going back now to probably 1995 or something.
Wow.
And this bar, man, this one I can't put it down. This NF3 that you made me, I can't put it down. I just cannot put it down. It's fantastic.
I put largemouth bass inlays. That'll do it. All right.
Well, that'd sell a lot of guitars, wouldn't it?
No, it wouldn't. I love you so much. We're good.
I love you, Paul. I love you. Thank you so much, man.
As they do in the Dojang. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.